Common sense buffs. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without some dope content to react to. Man, it's been a long time. It's been months. I think the last time I was on live was when Colorado played Houston and absolutely got smacked. And then I decided I was going to take a break, man. I decided to focus on some life stuff, some work stuff. And for those of you who don't have YouTube channels and you're primarily just a follower, appreciate you. If you watch some other guys that are consistent and creating content on a daily basis or multiple times a day, it's a tremendous amount of work. And so, with the other opportunities I had going on in life, man, I just decided that I was going to lock in on those opportunities. But with what has been going on through the season and now at the end of the season, now that the transfer portal madness has started, the coaching carousel has started at Colorado. And oh man, the Colorado podcasters and YouTubers are absolutely going crazy, man. The reactions run the gamut from those who are in 100% support of what's going on, those who are seemingly 100% against what is going on or has been going on, and those who are, simply spectators, probably suffering from a little bit of disappointment, voicing their opinions one way or the other. It has been so ruckus, man, that for the streams that I have been following, I've just tried to inject my thoughts and my perspectives on what might be happening. Of course, I have no inside information. I am not close to the Colorado Buffaloes program, but I am somebody who fancies himself an independent thinker. And as an independent thinker, man, I just want to take the facts that are known to everybody, not the inside stuff, not the behind the scenes stuff, not the rumor stuff, just the information that's available to the average fan and provide my perspective. So that's what tonight is about. So if you are joining me tonight, thank you so much for being here. I probably won't be on stream too long because guess what? It is the Christmas season. It's time to be with family. But man, this was just too interesting to pass up going into the holiday. So if you celebrate Christmas, man, Merry Christmas to you. I hope things are going well for you. I pray that God is being good to you. I pray that you are well, and I pray that your family is well. So I think a lot of this stems from the fact that Colorado did not have the season that we expected as fans. And in some ways, Colorado did not have the season that was promised to us by Coach Prime. And when I say promise, he didn't come out and say, the record is going to be X. But what he did say was that the goal was the Big 12 championship. And when the bar is set that high, it's not kind of unreasonable to set that kind of goal. And I think anybody who has a track record that Prime has, he's going to set aggressive goals, right? Because he has a track record of being successful. And so it's no surprise that coming off a 9-4, right, including the bowl game season in 2024, that in 2025 he would set his sights on a Big 12 championship. They were in the hunt for a Big 12 championship last year. So this is where everybody's expectation was going into the season. And even going into the spring last year with the acquisitions that they brought in, Coach Prime stated that although the 2024 team was more talented in spots, right? Clearly at the quarterback position, clearly at the wide receiver position. You could say the same about the linebacker position. In aggregate, Coach Prime thought that the 2025 team was better. So he said that himself. And so he set these expectations, right, going into the season. The fans were very, very excited about the acquisition of Caden Salter, which now that we're having conversations about that's another thing, man, pocket watching. As now that these players are getting paid, even though these contracts are not public, when there is questions about whether or not somebody is getting return on investment, somehow somebody's salary gets leaked. There's a reason why, HR departments are very, very careful about how much people are making, right? Because there's a lot of jealousy, man. If you work in a company, and it's like you got to think about these things that these players are going through in college sports right now. So you got an 18, 19, 20-year-old And in corporate America, they're very strict, right? You can't talk about your salary, how much you're making. You certainly don't want your peers to know what you're making. And if you're smart, you won't be interested in what your peers are making either. But some HR experts will tell you like, hey, you should be finding out where your wages are in the range of people in your market in similar positions. So imagine a locker room now where guys are leaking out information, or the kind of car a guy drives gives you some indication of how much he's making, the kind of chain, the kind of grill, etc. And these are kids around one another. And now people are getting a sense, like when Caden Salter got acquired, that hey, he was going to be the quarterback that was going to bridge the gap between Shador and Juju Lewis. And apparently now that people are pocket watching other people, other grown men, and how much money they're making, word is leaking out that Colorado paid a pretty penny for Caden Salter. Now imagine if you're a guy in that locker room, and the coaches are maybe saying that the guy who's getting this big check is not playing up to potential. You're on social media and the fans are saying that this guy is not playing up to his potential. I mean, you can see, you got eyes. You're like, man, this guy's not paying up to his potential, but you know how much this person is making. Human nature is that, that hate is going to come out, right? Another guy who, Caden is leaving now. This is his last year, so he's not going to be at the school anymore. But another player who was highly touted that came in the transfer portal, Jaheim Otis, right? It's another guy who probably, people talk and, he's not playing up the expectations. And man, this is the guy that you're giving all this money. And so all of that stuff corrupts the locker room. And I don't think that these are not professional players, right? These are kids. And not only kids, because typically in your early 20s. I mean, maybe some of you guys out there were supremely mature and you knew how to deal with issues like this. But I'm guessing that a vast majority of college kids don't know how to deal with issues like this, right? Disparities in pay, disparities in performance, etc. And what makes it even worse is that you got parents involved as well, and of course you got agents involved as well. So now you put all of this in a mix, you shake it up, and now you have a team that you're trying to build come spring of 2024 with very, very high expectations. And from the very outset, it doesn't seem like this team really ever gelled, right? From the Georgia Tech game, you didn't quite see that they were the team that you were expecting to be on the field. And what became immediately apparent was on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it wasn't even a shadow of the defense that Robert Livingston had on the field in 2024. Robert Livingston, kind of the unexpected hire from Deion Sanders in 2024 to be the defensive coordinator. He puts together a revamped defense, a much better defense than they put on the field in 2023. And, his prospects now as this defensive mastermind with the scheme that he ran, even though they ran a bunch of man and a bunch of zone with the team that they recruited. So the Chidozie Nwankos of the world, the BJ Greens of the world, the Nikai Hill Greens of the world, the Lavonta Bentley, who was going on his second year with Prime. Of course, you had Shiloh, but he got hurt. The level at which Stoutmeyer was playing. Of course, you had Travis Hunter at corner, DJ McKinney on the other side. The defense that they put on the field and the performance that they put out, 2025 wasn't even a shadow of that, right? And I think that was the first shattering of the illusion of the expectation that this team was going to be a contender for the Big 12 title. And something just seemed off. Now you move on to some of the out-of-conference games. They were supposed to be easy wins, and they struggled. Caden Salter had his struggles early on. And what seemed to happen was like a team who was the coaches and some of the players were doing the best to hold the team together, but it seemed like this was a team that was coming apart, not necessarily because guys were at each other's throats in public or throwing each other under the bus on social media, but you could just tell by the play on the field. And I think all of that culminated when Ray Lewis came in and he gave his speech, and he was like, man, when I watch you guys play, you guys don't play together, right? And now that the season is over and the transfer portal is open, there's a lot of guys jumping in the transfer portal. All of a sudden there's all these leaks, right? Now we could see with our eyes this wasn't the same team. And the usual suspects got most of the blame. So number one was kind of Pat Shermer, and again, I will never talk down on somebody who I wouldn't even be able to do a quarter of their job, right? An offensive coordinator calling plays at this level of college football in a kind of high pressure cooker that is Colorado. I mean, I can't even criticize the next person, but except for as a fan looking at the product that was on the field, and it just never felt like a cohesive scheme, right? There was nothing about it that spoke to I'm really thinking long and hard about what the pieces are that I have, and I'm scheming up this offense to take full advantage of the players that I have. So the usual suspects during the season were the ones who were being pointed to as part of the problem. So Pat Shermer was getting a lot of the blame later on in the season as a result of just what was evident on the field. And I'm not saying that Prime succumbs to pressure from the outside, but just what was glaringly obvious, even if you weren't in that locker room. Prime made the decision to move over to Brett Bartolone to call the plays. Now, my understanding, and I've never played Division One football, but is that you're not going to necessarily get a new play caller, new offense. Essentially, you're going to take the same offense because that's the offense that all the quarterbacks, all the offensive players are familiar with, and somebody else is going to call the plays. But essentially, the person whose offense it is also there and is being consulted in terms of the game plan as well. So even though you're changing play callers, nothing really radically changed, right? Some of the same issues that were evident in the first half of the season continue to be evident even after the play caller was changed. And then when you look at the effect on what we saw on the field, of course, Caden Salter underperformed, but where I thought they had some improvement was in the run game. So even though the run game was not Big 12 leading or is anything that you would say, oh my God, look at these guys, 100-yard rushers, etc., it was definitely much better, much improved from 2024, which was one of the goals that Prime had. Another bright spot on the offense was the offensive line. The offensive line was clearly improved. So when we're talking about misses in the transfer portal for 2025, maybe Caden Salter, you might say, is one. But really where I thought they hit in a couple of places was on that offensive line. So not a lot of people right now are giving Prime and the offensive line coaches credit for bringing in a Xavier Hill or a Zy Chrysler or a Zarian McGill or a Larry Johnson, right? I think as human beings, we have a tendency to lean into what is negative, right? Versus what is, even though the season was clearly an underperformance, where did the team get better, right? Where in recruiting did they have some hits? Now, some of those guys are upperclassmen, so I think Chrysler is gone, McGill is gone, Xavier Hill is gone. You want to do everything you can to hold on to Seaton, obviously, to protect Juju's blind side, and Larry Johnson, who has eligibility still left. But those are areas where in 2025 the team obviously improved. Now the bar at wide receiver was set so high that this entire wide receiver group to have the expectation that they would come in, pick up the offense, and pick up where like a Travis Hunter, um, LaJohntay Wester, Jimmy Horn, and Will Shepard kind of left off in terms of their legacy, and then moving on to the NFL. That was going to be a tall order. But the bright spots in the receiving room, of course, were Omarion Miller. And when you talk about the transfer portal and kind of why things are so crazy, is that going into this 2026 season, the expectation was that, oh, well, the season wasn't that great, but the least you can do is keep all of the players who played really, really well for you in 2025, right? So we had this expectation, Big 12 title. We didn't get there. In fact, we way underperformed that. We know we don't have all the pieces. We know we're going to need to go out and pick up some pieces, but the least you can do in terms of salvaging this season was keep your high performers. When that seemingly was not the case, I think this is where in the title of this video is Panic is Not a Strategy. Panic started setting in for the fans. Like, oh my God, the Prime era is crumbling, et cetera, right? The hyperbolics that we all see if you follow Colorado. I think it's completely out of control. Right? For anybody who's ever led an organization, for everybody who's um, had to navigate change, anybody who has been put in a situation where you had to turn something around, you understand that panic is not a strategy, right? You're going to have uncertainty in life. And one of the most uncertain things right now in college football is the transfer portal. But we're going to kind of get there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, right? So they had some misses in the transfer portal. The team didn't play well, but they did have some hits, right? Now, when you go to the defensive side of the ball, man, um, I think if the defense could have played better, I think Colorado would have been in more games. And it's not like, and Prime says this all the time, what do you think I forgot how to coach, right? And I think that's what people, and that's how people are treating Rob Livingston. The same coach who coached up that 2024 defense was the same coach calling plays for the 2025 defense. So what happened? I don't know. I'm not behind the scenes. All I could go off is the performance on the field, and it simply wasn't there. Some of the guys who underperformed, in my opinion, was like an Amari McNeil, right? I thought he was going to have a standout year. But again, you don't really know. People say this all the time. I'm not an offensive line guy. I'm not a D line guy. What I love is skill players or cornerbacks. But on the football field, there are just a series of units, right? So you have your D line, that's a unit, right? You have individuals on the D line, but that D line needs to play as a unit. And that's where I think we take for granted how good Chidozie Nwankwo was. When you have a guy like him on the line that is essentially a block bully, where you need two offensive linemen to try to block him, whether it's in the run or in the pass, it's gonna make his teammates around him better. The expectation probably Amari had was that he was going to be playing next to Jaheim Otis, who was going to be the Chidozie Nwankwo replacement. And so the expectation that I had for Amari was a breakout season. It didn't quite pan out that way. But if you think about the D line of Colorado, they were just never that kind of fearsome unit that was going to lead the Big 12 in sacks like they did in 2024. One of the surprises on the D line were the two freshmen. I didn't have really anywhere to place them, any high expectations on them, but London Merritt and Alex McPherson were two guys who played really well being freshmen. Right now, London Merritt is still with the Colorado Buffaloes. Alex McPherson is now in the transfer portal, but we're going to talk about who's in the transfer portal and why. When you get up to the next level, you're looking at the linebackers. Martavius French and Reggie Hughes were supposed to be the solutions for losing to Kai Hill Green and Levanta Bentley. Now, a lot of people had criticism for Levanta Bentley in 2024, but like they say, the old saying goes, you don't know what you got until it's gone. And you can see the difference that he was, the difference maker that he was in the run game. Now, we didn't have linebackers that were excellent in terms of coverage and things like that. So there were a couple of times where we got beat in coverage in 2024. But in terms of stopping the run, Colorado was much better. Now, there were some backs like Giddens and Neal who absolutely, just torched Colorado in 2024. But for the most part, that linebacker core was pretty good against the run. So you lose those guys. That was another controversy, right, going into 2025. Why didn't we keep Nakai Hill Green, who ended up going to Alabama? And then when you go up to the next level, you were going to lose Travis Hunter, of course, at corner. I mean, how do you replace a Travis Hunter? Is that even possible, right? At corner, the expectation was that DJ McKinney would be the heir apparent, really being that lockdown corner, having played with Travis, having the experience going into this year. Highly touted as a first-round draft pick, didn't play up to expectations. Personally, and it was a revolving door opposite him, right? So you had Tion Parks, Makari Vickers, RJ Johnson. RJ got hurt early in the year. And then very, very surprisingly, somebody who came in and played extremely well, kind of fought his way into that starting role, was Ivan Yates. I don't know if Ivan Yates is going to be there for another year. I think he's a senior. But you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. And I see a lot of you kind of creeping in here, man. I appreciate you guys being here with me. Merry Christmas to you. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed right now. Hit me up in the chat. Let's talk about the pandemonium that's going on in Colorado. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments in the chat. All right, so we were talking about units, right? D line was not a unit. Linebackers were not a unit. Cornerbacks were certainly, I mean, DBs were certainly not a unit. And that defense got absolutely torched in both phases of the game, in the run game and in the pass game. And then when you switch over to special teams, oh my God, it started off well in the kicking game early in the season, and then like many things in 2025, it just kind of fell apart. So that's the story of the 2025 season, right? Enough blame to go around. There were some bright spots, right? So I talked about the run game. I talked about the improved offensive line play. We talked about Omarion Miller's performance. I think guys like Zach Atkins were underutilized. What's the tall kid, the wide receiver? I can't think of his name right now. But I thought he was underutilized in terms of his ability to take the top off of defenses. We just never quite got to him. And I don't think that the offense was schemed in a way to get him open as often as he could have impacted the game. But that's on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, I mean, we already talked about that. So not only did the Colorado Buffaloes have a losing season, and as the season was coming to a close in press conferences, Prime, he's so good in the media. And even though you might not like his style, some people don't like his style. One of the things is that he's going to kind of tell you or hint at what might be down the road, either for himself or for the team. And one of the things that he said was, it's kind of foreshadowing way of speaking was that, hey, this is the Last Supper, right? There are going to be a lot of changes that happen. And, that's the strange thing about human beings. We clamor for change. We want change. Things need to change. Things need to change radically. Change. And then when the change starts happening, everybody's like, whoa, this is not what I asked for, right? But this is essentially what Colorado fans asked for. And this is what I think Prime thought was necessary. And so some of the big changes started out on the coaching staff, and I would love to get your opinion about the coaching staff changes. We'll get to the players in a second. I think the players is what's causing a lot of the issues that fans are arguing about and people are really tearing their hair out about. But I don't think people are talking about the coaching changes, because I think for the most part, most fans were not blaming 2025 on the players. I think for the most part, people were putting most of the blame on the coaches. What seems to be happening is that players leaving is getting the most attention, whereas the coaching changes are getting little to no attention. I don't know if it's just because as fans, you grow more affinity for players than for coaches. But I want to start with the coaches right now and get your opinion on whether or not you think these coaching changes were the right moves. So the big coaching announcement for 2026 is that Coach Prime, in my personal opinion, maybe a year and a half too late, has decided to hire a new offensive coordinator. And to replace Pat Shurmur, he has brought in Brennan Marion, I believe is the proper pronunciation of his name. All right, so my guy Lamont Simmons says Ivan is done. Well, job well done, because without Ivan Yates coming in and playing the way he did, we would have suffered even more against the pass and in some cases against run support. Where the Buffaloes roam, I love the coaching changes so far, still waiting on a couple more. All right, well, I agree with you, and I think he really hit it out. Coach Prime really hit it out of the park by hiring Brennan Marion. Not only is it a new face, it's a complete shock to the system, right? And so much of a shock, my initial thought was, hold on, wait, is this the right offensive coordinator for Juju Lewis? And it's because we have been led to believe he is Shedeur Jr. And you don't really hire a Brennan Marion as the offensive coordinator for Shedeur, do you? And I'm asking you guys, right? And so that was kind of my immediate first reaction. But the scheme that the Buffaloes had run for the last 3 years was so terrible that I thought only a radical hire like this could really give us something different on the offensive side of the ball. And equally, what I thought about was Omarion Miller. And I don't know how far you guys have gone down the Brennan Marion rabbit hole, but I went into the Brennan Marion rabbit hole, and it's very educational. I would highly recommend, because a lot of people get in these comment sections, man, and it's a free for all. It's the internet, do you? But I actually took the time to check out some of his conversations, right? Whether it be podcast interviews, and he has like an extended, maybe 45, 50-minute clip of him teaching coaches at one of his camps and helping them understand the go-go offense. But essentially, Prime has been saying is one thing, if any married people out there, is one thing to say what you're going to do, is another thing to do what you're going to do. I think everybody in relationship is looking for what you're going to do and not what you're going to say. Prime has been saying for the longest that he was determined to run the ball. Right? And he also always says that running the ball is an attitude, right? It's a decision that you make to run the ball and stick with it. I think in places this season, there started to be that kind of desire to run the ball, and then quickly we would move away from it, especially once the team went down. Even in games where the game was clearly out of reach, I don't know why we wouldn't lean into the run game and really, take the opportunities that the defense gave us. But that was the old scheme, right? So this is not only Prime saying I want to run the ball, but this is Prime now making a hire that's going to make it via the scheme the primary means by which we move the ball down the field. So how many of you have taken a look at any Brennan Marion either highlight tape or watching him in a UNLV or at Sac State or whatever the case may be? But one of the things I find very interesting is that he runs a high tempo offense, right? It's not exactly no huddle, but one of his philosophies is he wants to run a lot of plays. And so this idea that you're going to see Colorado kind of, spend a lot of time in the huddle, get the play, come up to the line, looking around, taking, 25 seconds and the clock is down to like 5 seconds before the ball is snapped. No. Brennan Marion is high tempo. And essentially what he says is like he's trying to run so many plays that he creates a fifth quarter. So one of the things that I am very excited about for Colorado, I mean, setting the transfer portal stuff aside, and we're going to get there, I promise you, is you're going to watch Colorado come out and be an up-tempo team. I think if you're going to watch college sports should be fun. I don't want to watch the baby NFL in college, right? I want to watch a game with a lot of creativity, with a lot of plays run on offense, and a high-scoring offense. So this is what Brennan Marion is now bringing to Colorado. I think we struggled at times to score a lot of points. We struggled at time to move the ball. And in the go-go offense, they're going to do that not only by being up-tempo, they're going to do that by wearing the defense down, by running a lot of plays, and they're going to lean into the downhill run. They're not running toss sweeps, although toss sweeps are part of this offense. They are running in between the tackles, and they're running triple option to make sure that the defense stays disciplined. So if they want to get to the outside, they're typically running an option to get to the outside, but most of their run plays are in between the tackles. The next thing here is that they run a lot of two-back sets. And so this is finally great for any kid who wants to come to Colorado, because Colorado really needs to recruit running backs, in my personal opinion. We've not had a superstar running back yet. We've had a superstar quarterback. We've had multiple, one for sure, superstar wide receiver. We put other wide receivers in the NFL. I think it's about time that we have a breakout running back, and this scheme is set up to do exactly that. All right, let me go to the chat real quick. I appreciate y'all participating, man. I see y'all creeping in here. Merry Christmas to you. Where the Buffaloes roam says, I've watched some of it. We will benefit from it being plug and play talent wise. I appreciate that. And one of the things that is said about this offense is that you don't need 5 stars to run it. What you need are guys with a particular skill set and a particular mentality. And I'll kind of talk about the mentality here in a second. But let's talk about skill set, right? So really, to run the go-go offense, from what I've seen, is yeah, it's going to be up tempo, and it's going to be a downhill run game. And what you need is two running backs, right, who are both willing to run hard and block. Because oftentimes, you're not really using a fullback. They occasionally use a tight end to block, but there's a lot of heavy set, right? Extra linemen in the game, or two tight ends, two running backs. There's a lot of personnel where they're not trying to disguise that they're about to run the ball at you, right? You're gonna know they're about to run the ball. Problem is you're not gonna know who's gonna run the ball, right? They do a lot of misdirection, a lot of counter, and that's where the creativity in the run comes into play. They do a lot of run to the short side of the field. So where a lot of offenses are going to where the space is on the field, they use a lot of misdirection where the defense is not think. Why would you run an option to the short side of the field? It's very, very unexpected. So you see a lot of plays like that in the go-go offense. So I'm really, really excited for guys like Micah Welch if he stays, Dallin Hayden if he stays. I think Simeon Price might get an extra year, and whoever else they bring into the running back room. My understanding is that some guys from Sacramento State are being targeted right now. So I love it. So you need backs who are both willing to run hard and also block. The other thing, and this is kind of where I'm going to pivot, is that this offense is not designed for quarterbacks who are dual threat. So you would think, okay, you got a run heavy offense with a lot of triple option involved. Do you need a running quarterback to really run it? And what he says in his install camps when he's coaching coaches is that he's had quarterbacks who are run first, he's had quarterbacks who are pass first, and he has had quarterbacks who are hybrid. And the thing about the go-go offense is it can be adjusted to the strengths of the quarterback because all the options are on the table with the go-go when it comes to the run game. So I think this quarterback that played for him at UNLV, Sluka, was a guy who had a lot of controversy. He left the team because there was some NIL dispute, but he ran this offense, right? So he's a guy I would say majority is a runner. The other quarterback who had a lot of success and after his time at UNLV moved over to USC. I can't think of his name right now. He has like a Polynesian sounding name. He was the starting quarterback for USC this year. He's more of a passer, right? And he ran this offense. And so that's why you see a Juju Lewis is saying, hey, look, despite what this offense looks like on the paper, I think I could run this offense. And what he looks for in his quarterback is neither a runner or a passer or some form of a hybrid. He looks for a distributor. So he's looking for a point guard, somebody who could read the defense and make a quick decision. And so I think that's why, a quarterback like Juju in a run-heavy scheme, hopefully this is going to protect him as well. He's not going to take a lot of hits, right? So in typical Pat Shurmur fashion, because we're dropping back so many times, a lot of shotgun set, a lot of single back sets. If a team is going to blitz you, your quarterback is going to end up taking a lot of hits if you don't have a terrific offensive line or a running back who really knows how to pick up the blitz. In this case, the defense is guessing so much that they can't really pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. So if you have a quarterback who makes great decisions, able to get the ball out quickly, that quarterback, one, is not going to take a lot of hits. They're going to be able to run the offense efficiently, and you can get that many plays off, right? Because you're running a fast break offense, right? You're always on the run, and that point guard is looking for who to get the ball to. And so it's no wonder why some wide receivers might say, I like the Pat Shurmur offense a lot better because it mimics the pure wide receiver offense where you have multiple wide receivers on the field all the time, which is why Shedeur needed really 4 great wide receivers to really run this offense, right? He needed to have options all over the field, guys who could get open. And so when we see what we see from the wide receivers in the transfer portal, is no wonder that a pro style wide receiver might say, hey, look, I don't think this scheme is really a good fit for me. I'm going to go to a scheme where I'm going to be a featured number one with a quarterback who's looking to get me the ball 60, 70, 80 times a year so I could go over 1,000 yards and really get my draft stock up. And so, what is he looking for in a wide receiver in this scheme? So, he really utilizes tight ends. So, one of the great things about the players who are actually staying is Zach Atkins, right, as a tight end. I thought he was like criminally underutilized in 2025. I think you're going to see a lot more Zach Atkins in this offense, right? A lot of when you get the linebackers to bite up in the go-go offense, you really have this tight end open all the time in between linebackers biting up, thinking it's going to be a run play, and then finding a pocket or a hole or somewhere to sit right behind the linebackers is where tight ends really get a lot of utilization in this offense. So it's great to see that Zach Atkins is back. Now they use a lot of two tight end sets, so the younger tight ends like D'Souza. So one of the great things about 2025, nobody is talking about. I know we lost Gavin Mueller, right, who is a highly touted tight end. And my understanding, word on the street, is we lost Gavin Mueller to Miami not because of some big payday, but really because he's Brett Bartolone's guy, and Brett no longer is there, so he's just moving on to Miami. But we have a great tight end room, a lot of great young tight end talent. A lot of those guys are not leaving. And that's because they see that with Brennan Marion, and again, the portal's not open. So I could and I'm sorry if I'm hitting this mic, I could completely have to retract everything I'm saying because tomorrow you might have a bunch of tight ends jump in, but that is not the indication that I'm getting. We haven't really seen running backs jump in the portal. We haven't, of course, the quarterback has not jumped in the portal. No quarterbacks have jumped in the portal for that matter, which you're seeing big name quarterbacks all across the country jump in the portal. You've not seen any tight ends jump in the portal. And I think you've only seen one offensive lineman jump in the portal. So there's clearly something that some players are seeing about what this offense, the change from what they were running before to the go-go offense that has a lot of guys saying, hold on, I might want to stay put here and be a part of this changeover in offenses. So I'm looking to see really some great utilizations of the tight end. Now, what is he looking for in the wide receiver? He says you need one downfield vertical threat. Now, Colorado is really, really good at recruiting wide receivers. Surprisingly so, because they're even better recruiting wide receivers than they are at DB. All right. And I know true Colorado fans can back me up on this, guys. I know you see it, and it's head scratching that Coach Prime would be the coach of a football team and you can't get DBs to commit, right? But we'll get to that in a second. So you got a room full of guys in an offense that really only requires one primary deep vertical threat. And with that kind of offense, you can see why certain wide receivers would look at that and say, you know what? This is my last year. I don't want to quite play in an offense like this. And if I'm going to play in an offense like this and I feel like I might be sacrificing targets, I might as well just make it up with trying to see if I can get a raise or a market rate. We'll kind of get to that. This is me just speculating, right? If I was that person, this might be my thinking. But one of the great things is that Joseph Williams, who I think is a true vertical threat, right? A guy who can really take the top off of an offense and stretch the field, is still locked in with the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, there are a couple of other guys in that wide receiver room. So somebody like a Quentin Gibson, somebody like a Quanell, and some of the younger guys being brought in. I think Christian Ward is another highly touted wide receiver, whoever they bring in the transfer portal. What is going to be quite interesting is how do you get all of these guys touches? And so this is where, for the first time in his career, maybe I'm going out on a limb, right? I haven't studied his whole career. I think he spent some time at Texas. So his experience at Texas, his experience at UNLV, his experience at Stack State, I think he's going to have a wealth to choose from in terms of players that can actually execute on this scheme at the wide receiver position. So I'm very interested to see how he utilizes all of these guys. Right now, as we speak, the only big name wide receiver that has entered the portal is Omarion Miller. So because fans have gotten to know him over 3 years, he had the big game against USC his freshman season. He was having a breakout game against Kansas State before he broke his ankle in 2024, and he had his best full season to date in 2025. A lot of fans have grown to love Omarion Miller, right, as a player. So when you lose a guy like that who's been with the team for 3 years after a losing season, and he's just one of many dominoes that are falling in a row, it just amplifies the noise, right? It makes it seem like, oh my God, if you can lose an Omarion, maybe you've lost control of your program. It really feels like that. But when you step back and you apply logic, both on the side of Brandon Marion and on the side of Omarion Miller, who's a kid who's had a season where a lot of suitors are going to come calling, offering him more money. I think you really have to think about all that went into the decision for him getting in the portal beyond just, oh, this might just be a dysfunctional program and there's going to be a mass exodus. So I'm very excited kind of exploring Brennan Marion's hire as one of the main things, even before you get to the players, that Prime needed to do to fix the situation in Colorado. If you guys agree with me, disagree with me, please let me know how you feel in the comments. The next area, right, and we'll talk about recruiting classes. Colorado tends to have smaller recruiting classes, high school recruiting classes, and this year is no different. But one of the areas where they really hit it out of the park, and a lot of credit has to go to this coach. This is another coach who got a lot of flack and has been getting a lot of flack over the last 3 years, is Coach Hart. But if you look at the high school recruiting class that Coach Hart put together, let me see. I want to get these guys' names correct. So I think at the very top of Colorado's recruiting class in 2026, and many of these guys are going to be here in January for early enrollment, is a kid named Carson Crawford, a 4-star linebacker out of Texas. I think he either has played or is playing for Texas State Championship. I think his school has won 3 out of the last 4 Texas high school championships. So he is a guy that was highly sought after. He decided to choose Colorado. And what's the other kid? Rodney Colton, I think is his name. Hang on, guys. Let me pull this up. Bear with me. I appreciate you guys bearing with me here. 2026. Rodney Colton is another guy. And there's another kid out of Washington State who are all freshmen linebackers who have agreed, right, who have committed, and on National Signing Day signed with Colorado, right? And that's, for all intents and purposes, and what I've seen online, the coach primarily responsible for this phenomenal linebacker class in 2026 is Coach Hart. However, the issue is not 2026, but how the linebackers performed in 2025. And the only sample you really have to compare Colorado linebackers to is 2024, when they had Nakai Hill-Green and Levanta Bentley, is that the team of Martavius French and Reginald Hughes, and even Sean Myers, who has now entered the transfer portal. So I think Reginald Hughes was a senior. Martavius French is a senior, and Sean Myers was a senior, but he's now gotten an additional year. Of course, Jeremiah Brown was another linebacker for them, who's also a senior. So all of these guys are gone, right? Either they graduated, or in the case of Sean Myers, he's now in the transfer portal. So it's great to see that you have 3 high school linebackers coming in. Oh, what's the kid's name? Starts with an M. Mantrez Walker, right? Mantrez Walker was a freshman linebacker. He is also exited in the portal. So there's been an emptying of the linebacker room. Now, you could say, as many people have said, oh, I think Colorado really can't develop linebackers. Or some people have said Coach Hart is just not a good linebacker coach. But all those things are subjective. They could be true. They couldn't be true. They're mostly opinions. But what's not an opinion is that they couldn't stop the run. And, although the linebackers made some plays, they didn't make enough plays to really make sure that Colorado was the kind of defense that they needed to be in order to win football games. So we, as fans, understand that linebackers, the players themselves, but also linebacker coaching was going to be an area that Colorado needed to improve. So they got these 3 freshman linebackers coming in. So Carson Crawford at the very top of the list, 4-star coming out of the state of Texas, 6'3", 215 pounds. Nationally, the number 202 in the nation. At his position he's the 11th best linebacker in the country, and he's the 31st best player in the state of Texas. So you love to see that from a linebacker perspective. They also have Rodney Colton, 3-star out of Georgia, and they have Colby Johnson, another 3-star out of the state of Washington. So that's pretty solid for a freshman recruiting class in terms of linebackers. Now, in addition to Brennan Marion, the next big splash hire at Colorado, let me get his name here, is the new linebacker coach, Chris Marv. I think his name is pronounced Marv. And he is the former Virginia Tech defensive coordinator who's going to be coming on to be the new linebacker coach. Now, again, everybody, like I said, as I started this breakdown, is freaking out about the players leaving. But I don't see people getting equally as excited about the coaches who are coming in, which is why I'm focused so much on the coaching changes, because we know coaching matters, right? And so he's another young coach. I think Brennan Marion might be 39. It looks like here in this article on 247 Sports that Marv is 36 years old. And, these are not jobs that you get because you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, right? Brennan Marion does not become the wide receiver coach at Texas, the OC at UNLV, the head coach at Sac State because, somebody just is hooking him up. Chris Marv is not the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach from 2022 to 2024 at like 34, 35, and 36 years old because somebody just happens to like him. These are people who have worked hard, have earned what they have achieved, and they see Colorado as the opportunity that it really is. I think that's what is a little bit frustrating for me as I watch the fans really lose their mind over what's happening in Colorado. Like, a lot of people have forgotten what an opportunity it is to both coach and play at Colorado. I know it doesn't seem like that way, right? And so for a lot of people who are blue blood college football fans, they're like, Colorado, right? The real prize is coaching at Alabama. The real prize is coaching at Ohio State. The real prize is, you know, coaching at Notre Dame. What are you talking about, Colorado? Well, um, there are certain people who feel more comfortable coaching at Ohio State, feel more comfortable coaching at Alabama, feel more comfortable coaching at Auburn. But then there are some people who feel more comfortable coaching at Colorado. I think for those people who feel more comfortable coaching at Colorado, Colorado is it. uh what's up? I think your name is Dreg Gallo 6774. Welcome to the chat. He says Buffaloes don't have enough money to replace 60 players with quality portal players. 6 to 8 million roster budget won't get you far, and you won't keep your best guys. Hey, look, let's say you're 100% true. Like what you're saying here, let's say it's absolutely true. Is money the only thing that matters? Is money the only thing that matters? Because I spent the first part, yeah, we realize that players are jumping in the portal. We realize that players are leaving. But I just spent most of this live stream talking about the coaching changes. So money has to be spent, right? So if you're in a business or you're leading your family or you're making decisions, you're the CEO, right? You are the leader. You have to decide how you spend whatever money you're spending. He's decided to spend money on hiring and I think buying out a contract and paying $1.6 million to Brennan Marion. I'm not sure if he's making that 1.6 every year or that's what the length of his contract is, but little old Colorado budget wise has decided that that's what they're going to spend for an OC. I do not think it's been disclosed what they're going to spend for Chris Marv, but they're spending money. As a CEO, Prime has decided I'm going to spend, right, as far as the visible money that we can see, the dollars I do have on these two coaching hires. Okay, budgets are not unlimited, but this is how he is strategically spending the money. We'll get to players here in a second, but it's just something to think about because I think you bring up a very important point. In the NIL era, money matters for players. My question, and I think your response is money matters now in the new NIL. I agree, but can money overcome, and it's kind of tongue in cheek, a little bit rhetorical here, I don't think money spent on players would overcome some of the foundational issues that true fans of Colorado who have been following this team in the prime era, so I guess I'm not a true fan, true fans of Colorado in the prime era would tell you that spending the same budget that some other schools are spending on players would not fix Colorado's problem. We had deeper problems in this organization, some of which have leaked out, which I'm not going to get into. It's a little bit salacious. What I am going to stick to is what we are actually addressing as a team, which is coaching, right? Which is coaching. So you bring in an OC, now you bring in a linebacker coach. Now, the good thing about this is that we have to remember that our DC, Rob Livingston, this is his first DC job, right? So Brennan Marion, OC, then a head coach. I think 2 seasons as an OC, one season as a head coach. Rob Livingston, 2 seasons as a DC. Now, one of the things that you'll realize about the Ohio States of the world, the Alabamas of the world, even like the Kirk Cignettis of the world, right, at Indiana, is that these guys have been coaching for forever. roster budget equal players only, staff salary is different. No, I agree with you. I agree with you, right? But I'm just talking about as a CEO and where you're putting money. You got to address foundational issues. And I think the issues I don't think this roster was that bad. I mean, do you guys really think this 2025 roster was that bad? I know they missed on some players. I just don't think this roster was that bad. I might be wrong. You guys can argue me to death in the chat, which is why I'm here. Argue me to death in the chat. All right. But I don't think this roster was that bad, right? Maybe it's wishful thinking when you see how they played on the field. But I think there were some fundamental issues around coaching as well. I appreciate y'all being here. Merry Christmas. Hit the like button so more people can jump in here. I love how intelligent the conversation is in the chat. Let's keep it that way. And, let's be kind to one another and let's just get our point across. Okay, so they got a new linebacker coach. And I was alluding to the fact that Rob Livingston, although he had a good season in 2024, seemed to struggle, both him and that defense, because ultimately the responsibility for the defense's performance falls on the defensive coordinator. I'm going to take a drink of water. I've been going for a minute. So he's in his second season, right? No, this will be his third season as a defensive coordinator. And I think he needed some help. And I think he's getting some help here. Not only Prime is getting a 2-for-1 here with Chris Marv. So he served as defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Virginia Tech, and now he's serving as linebacker coach here at Colorado. I think between him and Rob Livingston, we should see improvements in this defense and hopefully some diversity in the play calling around how much man defense that Rob Livingston likes to play versus mixing it up with some zone coverage to make sure that you're confusing the opposing offense. All right, so things are heating up in the chat, guys, and I want to engage with you. So I'm going to do a little bit of back and forth about what I want to talk about and what you guys are talking about in the chat. I'll pick a couple. Let me see. How do I highlight them here for the rest of everybody? So a couple of comments here, and I appreciate how engaged you guys. You said money won't fix the issues, but it will help solve some deficits. Yes, of course, including keeping roster continuity. I think roster continuity is very important. Do you think that the roster disruption that we have seen in Colorado right now is detrimental? Meaning, have we gotten to the breaking point? Are we approaching the breaking point? How concerned are you about roster continuity? Because initially I was, right? And the three that were most alarming to me were Omarion Miller, Alex McPherson, and of course Taufik Bayard. But the more I step back, the more I think that, hey, there's more to meet that meets the eye than just the players that we're seeing enter the transfer portal. There's more here, guys. Right? Now, the only way that there isn't more here is if Prime's detractors are absolutely correct, which is he's lost control of this football team. The culture is so terrible that players, one, don't want to play for him, two, they're not being developed, and three, they're broke, or worse yet, have the money but are cheap. Therefore, I'm going to just leave. Right? And high school coaches feel this way. Agents feel this way. Players feel this way. Parents feel this way. Yeah. It's over at Colorado. I don't know if it's that. And I can't in good conscience agree with that because, fortunately, I lead people. And when somebody's out the door, man, I mean, they were just at the Christmas party, right? And it was all honky-dory. And it was all, I bleed black and gold and all of that, right? When things were going good, when we were 9-3, 9-4, and things were on the up and up. We were on TV every week. It was all good just a week ago. And then all of a sudden, you take a few losses, it's like, hey, do you have a wife that's really down for you? I hope you never have to find out. I hope you always keep a job. I hope you're always able to pay all the bills. I hope you always stay in good health. You don't know. I hope everything is honky dory. Because listen, when people out the door, I was making the joke. I said, losing is like alcohol. The real feelings come out. Right? It's everybody else's fault except mine. Right? And, heavy is the head that wears the crown. But I don't think that's the CU story. Right? I think the CU had a rough season. It went from bad to worse. The wheels fell off. And to some of your points, it wasn't player led. And so things kind of fell apart. It was hard to put together. And maybe people saw the writing on the wall that in order to turn this thing around, a lot of the folks around here ain't going to be around here very long. And if you are a good leader, you might let people subtly know it's time to start looking for a job because, I don't want to fire you around the holidays. Right? I would rather you just announce that you are receiving a new opportunity, right, around Christmas. I don't want to have to do you like that. Not all leaders would do that. I'm kind of maybe projecting a little bit on what might be happening in CU, but I don't think what people are saying about how catastrophic this team, the condition of this team might be. I mean, there are 16, maybe 17 players in the portal. There are some big ones that were lost that will be pretty hard to replace. But I'm here for the ride, man. I'm here for the ride, and I'm here for a little bit of common sense, as the channel says. All right, so CU had some injuries and no backups. The injury bug definitely bit them. It said player development will be an obvious improvement. I agree with that. But again, it has to show up on the field. CU is now transitioning to college play versus pro style playbooks. And that's the thing I'm most excited about. I mean, you're a college team, right? I want to watch college football. I want to have some fun. I want to watch the triple option. I want to watch some reverses. I want to watch your playmakers get put in open space and make guys miss. So I'm definitely looking forward to a Brendan Marion's offense. Players did not respect the coaching staff. Okay. Roster was toxic, cultureless. The tight end Mateo addressed it. Listen, man. Listen. Thank God I've never been divorced. But I heard when people break up, it get real ugly, right? And we have a saying in our friend group. Hey, listen, when people are having issues, don't nobody say nothing. Because guess what? When they get back together, you're going to be the bad guy. Whenever two people break up, have you guys ever had to talk to two people after they break up? Is there ever one person saying, oh man, it was my fault the whole time? If you have heard somebody break up like that, please put it in the chat. You don't send that many players to the NFL. They're not being developed, but leadership amongst players is lacking. Yeah, you can say that. Since Corey is gone, recruiting should be better. They not actually go after Colorado kids now. And that's been a big conversation on social media, right? What was happening behind the scenes? And the finger is getting pointed at Corey. But listen, man, karma is a mug, man. Karma is a mug. And for people who are quick to point the finger, I'm going to sound like an old guy now. I know. You guys might look at me and be like, this dude don't know nothing about nothing. But I've been around the block. They say when you point one finger, you got three of them pointing back at you. All these people who are pointing at people as the problem and as the issue, you got three pointing back at you, man. You don't want to get caught up in your life pointing a finger at other people, man. I'm not saying you guys are doing it here, but don't follow these people who saying they got inside information and this happened. You don't know what access people have to grind with each other, man. It's a dirty game, and I'm in corporate America, and I've seen enough in corporate America to know it's a dirty game. When the ship is sinking and those knives come out, it could get real dirty. So I just try to deal with the facts that I'm aware of and just shoot straight. O Miller is a great player, but not him. I think O Miller is still developing, and that's another thing. I think we want to watch. Um, we want to watch CU play championship caliber football, but they haven't earned the right yet, right? They have so many things that they have to work on. They have so many players that still are far off from their potential. O Miller is a good player. He's still developing, though. He is still developing. Maybe CU is not the university to get him to his full potential. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he's in the portal. Maybe it's because his NIL value is up. Maybe he wants to get his stock draft up. He thinks he could do that at another school. O Miller is going to be fine. Taufik Byard is going to be fine. Alex McPherson is going to be fine. Mantrez Walker is going to be fine. All these guys, Sean Myers is going to be fine. And CU is going to be fine. People have to make the best decisions for them. You might not agree with it. You might think the university was wrong. You might think the player is wrong. Hey, but we're not in their shoes, right? There's been plenty of players that left CU that have done well in other programs. I agree. And good for them. Honestly, if you're getting paid big money, be a big player. Today's players' characters don't match the check. I listen. That's not how capitalism works. It's how much money are you making me? If you make me enough money, I'll look the other way on a lot of other things. NIL value sometimes is subjective. Also, the person who represents you and their ability to negotiate on your behalf also impacts how much you're going to get paid. Where the Buffaloes roam, so I believe it's being built the right way now. Yeah, I think some changes are being made. Some issues are being addressed, and hopefully the issues are addressed, but only time will tell. Which is why I'm like, I want to get here on and do this live. I haven't done a live in a minute. I want to get here on and do the live and just kind of like the pot was boiling a little bit. I just wanted to kind of calm the pot down and be like, hey, things happen, man. This is the transfer portal, but panic is not a strategy. Omarion didn't block either. No block, no rock. Okay, so that's a philosophy of Coach Marion. He wants his guys. He's another saying of his is, how you play without the ball is a reflection of how you care about your teammates or something like that. So that is one of his values. Everyone wants to be valued, but does everyone want to be accountable? No. And I mean, who here wants to be held accountable? It's easy when somebody else has to be held accountable. How many of y'all right now watching this chat right now want to be held accountable? Yeah, not really. All right. So I love the two big coaching changes that have been announced so far. I think those are the steps in the right direction. I think there are going to be more announcements. Now, one of the most controversial ones, I think, is going to be a cornerback coach. If there is actually a new cornerback coach at Colorado, there's been some talk that it might be Pat Surtain Sr. as a dream hire for a cornerback coach, not only for the development of the cornerback room, but also for recruiting, which is kind of flabbergasting that Coach Prime is the head coach and he can't seem to get 5-star DBs. I mean, Cormani McClain was the highest rated cornerback to come to Colorado. He does have a few DBs that are highly touted in this class, including Preston Ashley. If you have not seen Preston Ashley's interview with, I think, Buff Stampede, was it Adam Munster Tiger or Brian Howell? I'm not sure. Go check it out. Very sharp young man. He's a safety, 5'10", 170 pounds, out of Brandon, Mississippi. He's a 4-star. He's the 29th best safety in the nation out of high school, and he's the 12th ranked player in the state of Mississippi. And this kid is all about Colorado Buffaloes football. I think he's going to be on campus in January, so he's getting an early start. He's going to be practicing with this team. So I like to see that. And I think Rob Livingston is the one coaching the safeties. But Preston Ashley is a very versatile defensive back. I can see him playing in the nickel and not just playing safety. Colorado desperately needs a nickel after having lost Preston Hodge. Other high school recruits coming in at safety. Braylon Edwards out of Duncanville, Texas, went to Duncanville High School, 3-star. He's the 162nd best safety in the nation, 5'10.5", 180 pounds, and he is the 225th best player in the state of Texas. Then you have Maurice Williams, who's a cornerback, 3-star out of New Orleans, Louisiana, 135 at his position, 50th in the state of Louisiana. So again, we talked about linebackers. We got 3 linebackers coming in. We have 3 DBs coming in, and a couple of other athletes that are kind of hybrid wide receiver DBs, which Colorado tends to attract as well. So exciting to see that we have some secondary players coming in as well. All right, let me check the chat real quick. Lamont Simmons, welcome to the chat, sir. You said it wasn't so bad. It was a bowl team, but injuries killed them. Are you talking about the 2025 Buffaloes, that they could have competed for a bowl game, but injuries kind of hampered them? It says sometimes the best decision, play better and apply self-development. Players need to use some of their money to hire independent coaches, put in the extra hour, and not to be dependent on just the program. Shedeur Sanders, right, might be the model for that. He had his own QB coach. I think Juju Lewis has his own QB coach. But not everybody is getting paid quarterback money. And that's the other thing. I think it's really easy to spend other people's money, right? And I think there's this argument going on because of some comments made by some people tied to Colorado about what people are being paid or what people are being asking for and whether or not they're worth it. Listen, man, it's real easy to spend somebody else's money. Oh, they got millions of dollars. Just pay them whatever you want. No, it doesn't work that way in life. You don't just go to your job and tell them, hey, look, I think I'm worth X, and they're going to just turn around and pay you. Right? That's not how it works, right? And so if you are getting paid X number of dollars, let's say $400,000, right? After taxes, maybe that's like $250. And, these kids aren't staying in dorms anymore. They're probably sending money home to their parents. $250,000 is not $250,000, right? I don't know what a coach costs for them to be spending a lot of time with you, but these are guys who are getting millions of dollars in NIL who can afford the extra coaches. I'm just saying. It's not a bad idea, but not everybody can do it. Wish they would get rid of Sapp. He don't know how to coach. I'm going to just let you – I'm going to read that out loud again. I wish they would get rid of Sapp. He don't know how to coach. Okay. I mean, maybe. Right? I mean, Brandon Davis Swain, although he's in the transfer portal, I don't know who Brandon Davis Swain would credit his improvement in play to. Maybe Coach Sapp? I don't know. I mean, you tell me. If it's him, I'm definitely confident this program will turn around. Who are we talking about there? CU will need freshmen to play and play well. Yeah, I think Coach Prime is not against playing freshmen. I think we'll see a fair number of freshmen, both true sophomores, right? Guys who played enough games to be true sophomores this year. So like your Quentin Gibson, your Quanell Farrakhan's, guys like that. I think they're going to get a lot of play time. I imagine a lot of guys on defense will as well. They'll certainly get a lot of play time on. They will get play time on on special teams. All right, guys. Look, man, it's Christmas. Thank you guys for spending time with me. I didn't even get to the transfer portal. I will get to the transfer portal maybe in another live if I choose to jump on here again. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, man, keeping the chat live. This was longer than I thought, but the conversation was great. I hope God blesses you, man. I hope you're in good health. I hope everything goes your way, not only for the Christmas season, but in 2026. All right. So it's been a long time. Sorry that I left you without some dope content to step two. I'm gonna be back soon, guys. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Until next time, peace.